I know you are in Texas right now. How is everything with your family?
Everything is all right with the Perkins family, Rachel. And I thank y'all for asking. I appreciate all the love from ESPN. But my house, the pipe bust, and I went there yesterday. I'm living in the hotel, and I was 38 hot. My wife wasn't, though. She said, "Ooh, I've been wanting to change this out anyway, so the insurance will pay for it." But seriously, you know what? I posted these pictures to remind people of what a lot of people are going through in the state of Texas, and to pray for not only me, but for the ones who don't have house insurance and are less fortunate, who can't afford to get these problems fixed, because a lot of people are dealing with these same issues.
Fizz, you see those pictures. They're rough.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. And like Perk and I was talking off the air, you know, Texas has gone through it from a weather standpoint. When you talk about, they got 55 inches of rain dumped on them not too long ago in one sitting. And now they have this. And so a lot of people have been going through some really tough stuff. And you put COVID on top of that, all you can do is pray for people, and hopefully a lot of people will give and try to help people that are in need.
Absolutely, and push the local government to take care of the people it's responsible for, just saying.
Yes.
All right, guys, wishing the best to everyone out in Texas. Hope you get some enjoyment out of our basketball show here. Coming up, the Bucks have lost 4 games in a row, but Giannis Antetokounmpo says not time to panic. What is bothering Milwaukee right now? We will discuss that. First, though, a lot of, start over again because I can do that. A lot of what determines whether something is successful depends on the conditions around it. For example, there's a catfish that scientists say can regularly swim thousands of miles a year. But you take it out of the water, can't flop for more than even a few feet. The conditions radically change what the fish is capable of. The same is true in the NBA, especially this year, where we have seen a huge change in conditions due to COVID. Practice time severely limited. Players constantly rotating in and out of the lineup. Teams often can't even meet all in the same room, which means hardly anyone's been able to hone the kind of schemes and communication that make for good defense. And the results have led to a staggering change in what's normal. Teams are averaging 112 points a game this season. That is the highest mark in the past 50 years. Meanwhile, what used to be a terrible defensive rating is now merely average. 5 years ago, the Lakers had the worst defense in the NBA. If they were defending at that exact same rate today, they'd rank in the top half of the league. So what happens when conditions shift this drastically? Well, enter the Nets, a team with almost limitless offensive potential, but plenty of weaknesses defensively. And in a normal year, that might mean Brooklyn could only climb so far in the standings. In a normal year, chemistry problems might arise from the fact that KD, Kyrie, James Harden have only been able to play 7 games together so far. But in this year, in these conditions, the Nets are thriving. Take last night's game against the Suns, who have been thriving themselves in this overcaffeinated season. Both Durant and Kyrie were sitting with injuries, and Phoenix took advantage early with, an explosion of offense. Devin Booker was cooking. The Suns scored 42 points in the second quarter alone. Phoenix led 75-54 at halftime. 75 at halftime, which would have been notable except for how the Nets were then able to storm back, getting a huge boost from its role players, who not only tightened the score, but actually defended enough to stop the bleeding. Still, Chris Paul was out there looking more like 25 than 35. He scored the Suns' final 11 points straight, including this a bit of point guard magic there. That's nice. And then 3. Yeah, after 3. Chris Paul. Woo. But James Harden right there with him. Get the little finger roll. Oh, nice. Then with 31 seconds on the clock, it's the pull-up and money. The Nets hold on to win. It was the biggest second-half comeback in franchise history. Because of course it was. In this season, we see records being broken nearly every single night. In this season, conditions are different. Some teams are going to be able to swim a whole lot further than they might otherwise. No one more so, apparently, than the Brooklyn Nets. So, Perk, what was the most impressive part to you of the Nets' comeback last night?
Well, it was James Harden, and I think he gave us all a friendly reminder on why he led the league in scoring for 3 straight years. When you look at this big 3 in Brooklyn, when they all 3 are on the court together, James Harden takes a back seat and sacrifice and move to that point guard position where we all was questioning why is James Harden only getting 15 shots or why he only took 12 shots, but he's also leading the league in assists. But with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving being out, James Harden said, you know what, let me remind the world that I could still put the ball in the basket in great fashion. And he did just that against a tough Phoenix Suns team who had been on the tear. So when I look at what happened last night, James Harden was the most impressive thing because dealing with this COVID situation, we don't know what could happen in the postseason. Kevin Durant might be out during the course of a series, and James Harden might have to step up and go back to the James Harden of old. So I was more impressed by James Harden in the way that he dominated that second half.
Yeah, Perk, I think you hit it on the head, brother. But, first off, Phoenix is a team that's learning how to do it for 48 minutes, night in, night out. So you're going to see Phoenix have losses like this. This is going to happen as they mature around Chris Paul, Crowder, veterans like that. But with that being said, what I think the credit really should be going to Sean Marks and the roster construction. Because not only does he have big-time stars on this team that can carry you night in, night out if somebody's out, but the role players, they got really good role players. They're so deep. They got a guy like Tyler Johnson, who is the third point guard on their team, scoring 17 last night. We know what Joe Harris can do. They got multiple guys that can shoot that ball, get it going, and knock down shots. And when you put a guy like, it could be James Harden out with KD one night, and Kyrie's the guy carrying them. It could be KD carrying them without the other two guys. That's how talented they are. That's how their roster is constructed, and they can light it up on any given night.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Sean Marks. Of course, Sean Marks and Steve Nash got to know each other, not in Brooklyn, but when they were teammates back in Phoenix. And in fact, the crowd last night in Phoenix gave a huge ovation to Steve Nash. Steve Nash, of course, made a joke that Robert Sarver was still making money off of him because they let extra fans in the building last night. But that whole team, right? You've got Steve Nash at the helm coaching. You've got Amari Stoudemire there on the coaching staff. Of course, Mike D'Antoni also on the coaching staff. A lot of Phoenix connections. It was nice in the building last night. And, of course, as you note, Sean Marks as well. Let's move on, guys, to the Nuggets. Nikola Jokic scoring 43 of Denver's 99 points last night, but it wasn't enough to beat the Celtics on the road. I should note that Jokic scored just 4 of those 43 in the fourth quarter, but after the game, Nuggets coach Mike Malone was very quick to clarify it wasn't Jokic who needed to do more. Take a listen.
Well, it's not just running out of gas, it's that he needs help. You know what I mean? We're playing a back-to-back tomorrow night, and every night Nikola goes out there and literally puts his team on his back. And, we just need some guys to step up and help him. Jamal tried to get it going, but, he can't have 9 turnovers on the road as our starting guard, and he knows that. Other guys have to find ways to contribute, but it speaks to how well Nikola is playing. He leaves it all out there every night. That's why he's an MVP candidate, obviously. But it can't be just one guy in this league. You need other guys to step up and contribute. And, hopefully we get that tomorrow night. As I mentioned before, I thought the large majority of our guys not there competed at a high level. Didn't necessarily shoot the ball well, didn't necessarily defend well at all times, but for the most part, it wasn't because of lack of effort.
So, Perk, you heard Coach Malone there saying other guys need to step up around Jokic. I know you are not afraid, my friend, to name some names, so go ahead. Who is he talking about?
He's talking to Jamal Murray. Point blank, period. When you think about it, Jamal Murray gave us that great sample size in the bubble last year in the postseason. And we said, hey, he is a rising superstar. Well, he has not lived up to this season. His season average this season is the same as last season in the regular season, and that is not enough. We are looking for big things out of him. Donovan Mitchell has elevated his game. It's time for Jamal Murray to do the same. 19 points a night is not going to cut it. He needs to be in that 25, 26 point range. And he was talking, I think, look, I'm going to put an address on it for Coach Mike Malone. He was talking to Jamal Murray.
I think that's one of the guys, Perk, but I also think he was talking to Porter Jr. in some respects, too. He had a donut. And so When you got a guy that could score in bunches and score, with scoring is his thing, you can't show up with a donut. And you got to figure out other ways to score. It can't be I didn't get my plays called, I didn't get a pass. You got to go get some easy buckets. You got to run the floor. You got to go get an offensive rebound putback. You got to make a back cut. You got to get yourself going somehow. I remember a lot of times Bron and D-Wade would always say, if I could get a couple of layups, everything else is going to get going for me. If I can get fouled, everything else will get going. And for some reason, Porter Jr. didn't have that in his game last night. He didn't have that force in his game, and I think he will respond. But I agree, Jamal Murray's one of the guys, and no one's going to be harder on himself than a guy like Jamal Murray. But I think, too, Jamal Murray's got to start playing in the now. He can't be worried about last year's bubble and all of these expectations and all of that crap. That's noise. That's ego-driven crap. He needs to just get that noise out of his head, focus in on being the player that he can be night in, night out, and play in the now. Don't worry about what's going to happen later on or what people are saying.
Well, that is very good advice, Coach. And by the way, when Coach refers to the donut, he's not talking about Krispy Kreme. He's talking about the score sheet. So, yes, absolutely, Coach. You got to find other ways to contribute. All right, guys, coming up on this show,
Yes.
D'Angelo Russell slated to have knee surgery. It's going to keep him out at least a month. So where do the Wolves go from here? They just got Cat back and healthy. We will discuss. First, though, time for our distant